Hey!
Hey!
I'm Sam.
I'm Matt.
And we are watching episode 4 of season 10 of X-Files.
Episode 4 of the revived X-Files miniseries, because there is a season 10 comic.
Oh.
So it's worth just specifying exactly. This was the TV show, not the comic.
Aren't you the master of extended universe? Okay.
I saw it on the Lone Gunman Wikipedia page. I'm not
So, this was an excellent episode.
Yeah.
It was the episode I was looking forward to for the whole miniseries. Not specifically this, but the episode of the X-Files that felt like it recaptured this love of the supernatural and excitement, and
the characters felt like they'd moved forward without not feeling like themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Mulder was more mature, but not.
But the same. He was himself.
But he was not Mulder.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I guess we'll just talk about it. There are a couple plots in here. I'd say at first I thought that they had zero synthesis between the A plot and B plot. They were not related stories.
Yeah.
At the end of it, I think they are just barely connected enough to receive a pass.
Yeah.
But without ever quite making sense together.
They're paced weirdly next to each other.
Mm-hmm.
It feels like Scully's thing could have happened in an episode which had less to do with its A plot,
mm-hmm.
like less to accomplish. So this was a good one.
Mm-hmm.
There were, it was a Monster of the Week episode, like a lot of really good X-Files is.
Mm-hmm.
It's got the best line of the revival so far.
A really great line. "You're a dark wizard, Mulder." Delivered with a slight smile, but not with really a particularly wry expression.
Yeah, not as if she really thinks he's like not a wizard, just like she doesn't think he's a dark wizard.
Yeah,
so like,
or maybe like he's supernatural.
Yeah, clearly you are a wizard, Mulder. You're a dark wizard, Mulder.
Also, because you're a wizard, X is an important quotation in modern thinking. So it just sounds like it's in the wrong show.
Yep.
It improved the episode a lot.
Yep.
So there's an A plot here and there's a B plot. A plot, we have our Monster of the Week, who is killing people and leaving spooky graffiti behind.
Yep.
And we've got B plot, in which Scully, surprise Scully's, and Mulder and Scully have terrible luck with their relations. I mean, people have to die eventually, but it seems to happen a lot to them compared to characters in other shows.
Yep.
Anyway, her mother had a heart attack and is in intensive care. So
although really it doesn't seem like it happens that ridiculously much when I think about it, because Scully's mom, how old is Scully now? Like, she's what, almost 50?
Mm-hmm.
At least like 40, and her mother is at an age where dying of a heart attack isn't weird.
Yes.
Yeah.
My point is not whether it makes sense, but rather the degree to which X-Files tends to have stories in which their loved ones are, die or murdered.
Yeah, it's weird, I think, by TV show standards.
Exactly.
But not by real standards.
Although the murders are weird even by the real life standards.
Yeah.
So, her mother had heart failure and is in the hospital, so she flies back from, what's wrong with me? I can't remember where the episode takes place.
Philadelphia.
Back to DC, right?
Yeah.
To go be with her. So the two plots, and certainly in terms of narrative causality, have almost no connection.
Yep.
In terms of thematic connection,
let's talk about them separately.
Yeah, exactly. In terms of thematic, they do barely enough. What should we talk about first? I guess.
In terms of thematic, it feels like there's sort of an author's saving throw at the end to make them tie together.
Yeah. Mulder, here is the way in which A plot and B plot were intertwined. That's very good. End credits.
Yep. Scully, isn't it possible that these were 2 different episodes combined into one for this section of the miniseries? That's ridiculous, Mulder.
So, let's talk about B-plot, because A-plot is fun, and I want to save it for last. B-plot is, there's this whole murder thing going on, but, obviously Scully's got to go back, and her mother is in bad shape. Before she fell into the coma that she's in, she asked specifically for Charlie, her youngest son.
Who is stated by Scully to be something of like a wild child.
Yeah, and is estranged from his mother. And she asks, and no, she was not asked for. Scully was not asked for, neither was Bill, the other son.
Or even Melissa, the dead one.
So, she's a bit upset by this, but, she performs well.
Yeah.
Throughout the entire plot. So, she seems grieved, she seems confused, just
she reacts like somebody whose parent is
dying. I mean, in some ways, why am I surprised? It's Gillian Anderson. I mean, she's just really good.
Yeah.
So she delivers a solid performance as you expect. So eventually, Mulder even comes to join her.
I have to say, I was seeing a good performance for a lot of this miniseries, but this was one of the first times I was really seeing Scully again, compared to a lot of the previous ones.
Where she was just...
Like, kind of the return episode felt a little Scully-y, but other ones just didn't quite feel like the character.
Oh yeah, she's definitely Scully in this one. Mulder comes to join her, and I would maintain that maybe it's not in character for Mulder to have left the possibly dangerous situation.
There was a little too much evidence for it being supernatural for me to be okay with it, but I believe the intention of the story was that at that point he figured it was a mundane situation.
And there are lines to that effect. It's just it doesn't quite click because there's a magic band-aid.
Yeah, there's a magic non-existent band-aid.
But yeah, so that she's in the hospital. She learns that her mother had actually changed her wishes so that if she would not be resuscitated. And this is news to her, and combined with the fact that she wasn't asked for by her mother before the coma makes her wonder whether, am I just dirt?
Yeah.
Am I just trash? There it is.
Yeah. Oh.
There's the episode theme. So, Mulder's there, and they manage to get Charlie on the phone, and Charlie talks to his dying mother, and that's enough to wake her up. And she grabs Mulder's hand, actually, and says, I have a son named Bill, too, or William, too. And then she passes away. So it's like, what, even in her last moments, like, what is she talking about?
Yeah.
Like, why is she talking about our son? Talking about, for those who are not on the extended X-Files universe. That's the, of course, Mulder and Scully have their own son who they put up for adoption. Yeah. And they haven't seen in a long time because it's a super secret adoption because, like, maybe he's an alien.
Yeah.
So she's like, well, yeah, why is that happening? Anyway, she's devastated, and she's like, okay, we need to go and get back to the... Yeah?
If they want to know if he's an alien or not, they can just wait for him to turn out to be the world's greatest chess player. Which... that didn't happen yet.
It didn't happen yet, but I appreciated the intent because that seems... I was like, oh yeah, I'm sure that's an extra episode.
It's a major plot point that an alien is the world's greatest chess player.
Did we meet him?
Yes.
Or her? Okay.
Yeah. So...
but regardless, yeah, she's like, okay, I need to go and work on this case right now. Let's go back to Philadelphia. And
the A-plot was cooler anyway, Mulder.
The A-plot was cooler. Even I know this, and I was giving a good performance in the B-plot.
Yep. So they go back and they reinvestigate the A-plot. Now let's run down basically what's the A-plot. The A-plot has a really great cold open.
Yeah. So, it starts with the homeless on the streets of Philadelphia being sort of manhandled and told that they're all going to be brought over to a different part of town.
Yep.
In a few days.
Yep.
And one of the assholes who's behind this is an asshole. I can't really remember anything about him. And there's another asshole who's eating ice cream.
And then
anyway,
he ominously throws his ice cream away.
Yep, like trash. Anyway, so like the first asshole goes to his
To his office.
To his office, and is on his own, talking asshole business on his phone. Some sort of businessman. Meanwhile, on the streets, trash starts rattling, and all the homeless hide. And a garbage truck rumbles up, stops, pulls away, and there's just a man standing there behind it.
Yeah.
And so this man approaches the office, and he's got this dark silhouette against the door, and the guy's freaking out. The lights are flickering, and he's like, which we later learn.
Is this actor's portrayal of smells something bad?
Yeah, but it really seemed more like he was becoming sick, but give it a pass. It's still a good open. And suddenly someone breaks through the door, and we don't see it clearly, and it's still the perfect framing. Someone literally pulls him apart.
Yep. It is the Mortal Kombat thing.
It is so Mortal Kombat, and it's perfect, and it gives this episode its own flavor because, I mean, even if we're just judging by the other episodes of X-Files so far, nothing has been like that.
Yep.
This just sheer strength and brutality. So the mysterious assailant walks outside, the garbage truck is waiting, and he climbs into it with a bag, climbs into the back, and it compacts him.
Yep, and throws the arm away in the truck.
Yeah. Yeah, his arm, he's bringing the arms with him. So, I mean, this is a great cold open because it establishes the kind of world that we're in. It establishes the battlefield, which is the sort of the horrible world of the homeless in Philadelphia.
Yep.
And it establishes things about the villain, and it has an interesting, great monster, and it's willing to show it off. It's willing to just have a murderer climb into the back of a garbage truck and get crushed.
Yep.
And drive off, and it's just great stuff.
Yep.
It's a great way to hype someone up for the episode.
Yep. So then, like, that cold open was really good. And then the Mulder shows up, and he and Scully investigate this death, and there's a police officer who's like, I'm not just totally turning this case over to you, just so you know.
I just want some, like, help with it. And it's like, this is our jurisdiction. What?
And then he totally turns the case over to him.
Yep.
And that's the end of him. And then Scully gets a phone call, and it's
from the B plot.
Yeah, it's her brother's like, "Hi, you need to go to the B plot now." And she's like, "Okay, Mulder, I'm going to go do a B plot," and she leaves.
And Mulder stays behind for a bit.
And Mulder's investigating, and he's like, "Wow, isn't that a cool graffiti out there in the window? Out the window, I see a cool graffiti."
Yeah, and also I noticed in the footage from the security cameras that the cool graffiti wasn't there last night. And I'm Mulder, and I notice only the things that are important. I'm sure that's important.
Yep, it was.
And he steps on his way out.
Steps on a Band-Aid, or does he?
Maybe not.
This is actually a question in this episode.
Did he step on a Band-Aid? He lifted up what looked like a Band-Aid. Was it there? Was it living or dead? Was it undead?
Mulder picks up a Band-Aid, and he's like, wow, this must be plot relevant. And he takes the Band-Aid to be analyzed by a chemical analyzer. And the guy's like, well, I separated the organic and the inorganic material.
It turns out there's none of either.
Turns out this is none of either. It's not living or dead. And Mulder's like, what, not living or dead? And he's like, yeah, it's not, what? Don't you just mean organic or inorganic? He doesn't say that, but it's the phrase "not living or dead" does not actually describe neither organic nor inorganic. So
there's basically.
But Mulder would know that because he's a dark wizard. And then Mulder just goes on. So then I believe at that point is that when we see.
I just want to clarify real quick. Like, that scene within the lab is just like sort of a bad exposition scene in which the terminology is so confused that I understood what they were trying to say at first, and then they clarified, and I had no idea what they were talking about. Because they were like,
this is like what...
if I'm like, if it's neither living nor dead, then it's probably, like, was never alive.
Yeah.
It was just like made of rock or something.
Yeah, you're saying it's like...
Or like paint. I know paint is important in this episode.
Like, this, so it's like, this is the, that terrible Cardinals home announcer that I keep going on about, who made me, somebody who has followed football, watched football since he was 2, confused about what football was.
because of the way he announced.
Football's a simple game. This is the tomato, this is the mixer. I was like, what? Now I don't know what happened. But yeah, so the point is, this guy's like, X-Files is a simple game. This is the living, this is the dead. And this is neither, and this is a Band-Aid. And Mulder's like, well, that's a perfectly reasonable way to describe this situation.
That sounds really interesting. I think I'm going to go fly off to talk to
I have to go, yeah.
Yeah, I think that this is a completely non-supernatural case, and it's a killer who thinks he is the friend of the homeless and is putting up these bits of art in order to show as a calling card. Yep. So basically, he decides that it's a non-supernatural case, and therefore he's not needed. But it's just weird because of the Band-Aid that doesn't exist or something.
Yep. Also, the people, a couple people stole the graffiti, and then they also got murdered by the trash man.
Yeah. It was interesting because it was an interesting play with conventions, because Mulder's there on the street, and that's where he meets Ice Cream Asshole and also the other asshole. Who's the head of the school board.
Yeah, and we see this. So this was while Mulder was
investigating. Yeah.
Yeah, was investigating. He came across this argument where somebody's like, "Well, we need to get the homeless off of the streets," and
the other person's like, "No, you don't have any right." And we're like, this person's a good person. She's like, "You can't bring them over to the part of town that I'm in. Homeless people are smelly."
But her being a good person, I really liked this actress's performance, because she never seemed like she always seemed like she was being played as being this stereotypical wealthy, selfish suburbanite, even when she was advocating for the homeless.
No, she wasn't advocating for homeless.
Well, yes, but she was acting like she was. She was like, this is just the start of gentrification in this neighborhood. Mm-hmm. And so, like, you always kind of got from the start, I got this feeling. She was doing what some people have described as the white lady yell, which is where you don't yell, you just talk very intently.
Yeah. But they do something very well here most of the time, where none of these sort of just terrible people actually represent themselves in that light. They all look for a way that they are the good guy, even for the homeless, despite the fact that it really seems as if they're just, the homeless are an inconvenience that needs to be gotten rid of and played sort of like a game.
Yep. So he's trying to get the homeless away from this apartment building he's building. She's trying to prevent them from being moved into this abandoned hospital, which is near her house.
Yeah.
And it works very well, and it shows her being very self-righteous about how much she cares about the homeless. She just doesn't want them near her, which I've mentioned this sort of attitude amongst some people I've known. Mm-hmm. And
these people are great and we should support them, but just don't be friends with them.
Yeah, let's not support them in our proximity. But I serve turkey dinners every Thanksgiving, so that shows how much I really do care. Mm-hmm. But
so many people are going to be like that because everyone wants to be a good person.
Yeah.
So, the reason I brought that up in the first place is because that's the scene where Mulder looks up and sees that the spooky graffiti is gone. And that's when I'm like, ooh, it's alive and it's moved. And then
that's when I was like, oh, the police took it because Mulder told them to go investigate that.
Yeah.
And it turns out neither of us was right.
We were both incorrect, sort of.
But
it was stolen.
Yeah, and Mulder does, he's like, well, you say you're speaking for the homeless, but you're speaking for you. And you say you're speaking for the homeless, you're speaking for you. Who's actually speaking for the homeless? And then the spooky homeless guy's like, it's the Band-Aid man. And then he leaves. And then
Band-Aid nose man, yeah.
Band-Aid nose man. And I was like, and then he turns around. And I was like expecting us to see, when we got back from the ad break, to see like Mulder talking to him somewhere else.
But no.
But no,
We
it's
see that guy.
Like
we
Mulder,
can see that guy in a quick shot in just to see the crowd. But
yeah, so like Mulder was what? Mulder saw this guy be like, "It's the Band-Aid nose man. Where can I find the Band-Aid nose man?" The guy just walks away, and Mulder's like,
Mulder just didn't follow him.
"Yeah, like
it's weird."
I guess like I really like this image that the guy like comes back halfway through the episode. He's like, "Did that FBI agent come back? I was trying to lead him to the Band-Aid nose man, and he's just not here." But then we see the apartment douchebag loading. Well, we see these art thieves who stole it being like, "Haha, we can make money off the homeless." Isn't that great?
Imagine that, making money off of taking stuff from the homeless. Anyway, you go over to that corner of this room, and I'll stay in this one. And anyway, they're picked off. And it's very important, what they're developing with these murder scenes is each one is more impossible than the last. Yep. The creature, insofar as we see it, doesn't move properly.
Yep.
Like the camera work makes it like it teleports or something.
Yes.
It's never quite in a place that makes sense with where we last saw it.
And it disappeared like out, and in that one it just disappeared out of the painting.
Yes.
And killed them.
So I was correct, obviously, but I like that they faked me out at first.
Yes, you were wrong about what was being signified with that, but he could leave the painting.
Yeah.
That was kind of what I assumed at first too, was that it was going to be that the figure is literally the painting.
Yeah.
Which didn't quite turn out to be right. But then anyway,
so the next thing that happens because what happens at this point is Mulder and Scully are both in the B plot, so no one is actually like investigating these murders as they happen.
Yep.
Which is a little weird.
Especially because apparently Mulder and Scully are the people whose job it is to investigate.
No one else is doing anything.
But Mulder's like, I'm going to...
They didn't tell anyone, just literally there's no one assigned to it.
Mulder leaves to the B plot because he knows that if he leaves to the B plot, Scully will call him a dark wizard. And he leaves to the B plot and gets called a dark wizard. Meanwhile, the
ice cream douchebag.
Well, yeah, the ice cream
trying to load people the homeless onto a bus, and then school board douchebag
is like
comes by and says, "Yeah, I got an injunction, so if they show up at the hospital, they will be turned away."
Yep. So take that, and then he's like,
As she leaves, we see the graffiti ominously in the background.
Yep.
At her house, we have my favorite scene in the episode.
Oh yes, this is a really great kill scene.
It's a great kill scene from any slasher perspective, and even I can recognize that, not being super aware of the genre.
Yeah, it's very good. It does interesting things with the slasher thing, so it works better than most slasher kills in that respect, and I really approve of it.
So yeah, she's school board asshole shows back.
The student council president from the anime. He shows up at home and she's like, keeps eating yogurt and throwing it out.
Yeah, and there's some interesting things where they do these jump cuts between. She's like opens the yogurt, eating it. They cut between those to make it faster. And I mean, I just want to express my admiration because they're quickly expressing what she's doing while not actually spending more time of the episode on it.
Yep, and we established that her phone is on vibrate, which works for like the slasher fake out. Because we see the phone vibrate and it's her husband being like, "Hi, I'm the slasher fake out.
Yeah.
Hope you're doing good. Everything is normal and not supernatural here where I am. You have non-supernatural kids and a husband. I wanted to establish that for you. All right, bye." And then like,
because we established that he can vibrate things, so it's a little weird. But so she's eating yogurt and she's trashing it. She's pressing a button. I think is like grinding it up.
Yeah.
And it's great because by this point we know that trash is important.
Yep.
So the lights. Did the lights flicker? No.
The lights gonna no. She just turns out the lights in her house.
Yeah. She's turning out the lights, and then she notices that
we're seeing the approaching.
We see the approaching garbage truck, and the man comes out.
Yep.
And it's all intercut with her inside eating the yogurt and this cheerful song playing.
Yep. Which is Downtown.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's great when you're down.
stopping the song so that we don't get a copyright infringement notice. But yeah.
But yeah, like, so this song is gonna play through the whole murder.
Yeah.
So yeah, she sees the killer at the top of the stairs, and she runs away, and he somehow, while walking, and this is sort of it's a point of view thing, but we can see his
yeah. We also see him walk towards her at first, and we see that they like speed up the camera.
Yeah, he's sort of walking, but he's also going too fast.
Yeah,
they do a really great job in this episode of selling the impossibility. You cannot understand him. He doesn't make physical sense.
Yeah.
She manages to escape, and she runs to the back door, and there he is, right on the other side of the glass, looking down on her.
Yep.
Even though that he can't possibly be there.
Yeah.
And then they cut to someone throwing away something in the garbage, and they were like, "Oh."
He threw out her body in the garbage, and
it's great because, like, with the music playing, there's not the, like, sort of hard, obvious cues of a scene change.
Yeah.
So when we first cut to the garbage place, we're like, you know, the last thing we saw was him looking down on her through the window. Maybe she ran away, but then we see, no, she is already dead.
And then we see him take, like, her... a bag full of her body presumably from there. We see him carrying a bag into the garbage can.
And he lays down again.
And he lays down, which again is very thematically relevant to combining to what's said later, is that most people are treating throwing things out like it's magic, but he is personally disposing of things.
Mm-hmm.
He is actually physically taking them to the garbage truck.
Yep. So Mulder and Scully get back. And they talk to the tech guy from before, the lab guy, and the lab guy's like, so we took a look at the paint and, like, some of the graffiti or something.
And there's only one paint store in all of Philadelphia that sells this paint.
So they stake it out, they find a kid who bought that paint, and they follow him.
Yeah.
He actually goes around back, looks like.
Yeah.
Or maybe there was a cut that I didn't notice.
There was a cut you didn't notice.
So they follow him through... break in a fence and yell that they're the FBI, and the kid pulls out a gun, and so quickly Scully disarmed him that actually you didn't notice that he had pulled a gun on her. You saw the gun, but you didn't notice that he'd actually pointed it at them.
Yeah, I just thought like maybe he had a gun in his bag or something. I just saw Scully trip a kid, grab his arm, and then hand Mulder a gun. And I was like, I thought at first it was her gun. Like she'd been holding it, breaking in, and then she's like, I guess I need both hands to arrest this kid. Hold my gun for me.
But no, they were in mortal peril.
Yeah.
Except Scully was there, so I guess
so
that
doesn't
count.
You're not in too much mortal peril when Scully's there. She's really badass this episode.
Mm-hmm.
And then they follow this kid, and this kid's like, I'm going to go show you to... He's like, show me to the trash man.
The trash man, the name of the graffiti artist.
And the kid's like, I will show you to the trash man, but, you know,
sorry, go ahead.
But I'm going to take you... And he takes him down the stairs, like, just so you know, there's no lights or power after here.
And also, I'm running away.
And Mulder's like, well...
Wait, oh, he's gone. And Scully just stares at Mulder, and he's like, well, I'm not going to shoot the kid, and I'm certainly not going up the stairs.
Yeah, I'm not going up the stairs. I'm chasing upstairs.
I love this character.
Yep, and Scully's like, I used to chase people upstairs in 3-inch heels.
Which is true, and is appreciated.
Yep.
So they keep going, and they're, in the basement, and these weird figures appear.
Yep.
And it's all shot so well. They come out of the side of the frame in a place they couldn't possibly have been in the last shot.
Yep.
So they just don't feel like they're there quite, but they are.
Yep, and we also see one walk towards them and then disappear in between cuts. Mm-hmm. And what I especially like about that is that it did not disappear during a shot. It disappeared between Mulder and Scully looking at them.
Mm-hmm. So anyway, they find the trash man. And on the wall, tied to a pillar, is a plaster version of the monster that's been killing people. So this guy explains that he was just so sick of all the homeless
Yep.
getting exploited and played.
Specifically, he is the one who actually cares about the homeless.
Mm-hmm.
He's not sick of like the homeless being around.
Yes.
And so, yeah, he's like, well, let me explain the themes of this episode in Retrash.
Yeah.
Because you think that trash is magic and you just throw it out.
Yeah. You throw it out, it goes on the curb, and someone else deals with it. And, they view the homeless as being just like that. Something that needs to be magically dealt with.
Yep.
And once those people are out of sight, like, they will be out of mind.
Yeah.
So, basically, the people he's been murdering are all people who just don't want it to be their problem.
Yep.
So he said he put all that anger into creating, art.
Yeah.
And he created a whatchamacallit.
A tulpa, and then Mulder, in a really good moment for the character, says that tulpas as this thought form thing don't really exist. That's not actually part of Tibetan Buddhism. That's a misunderstanding. Which is great because Mulder doesn't say that.
Yeah, it means that Mulder has changed in the last about 20 years. I guess there was a movie.
Mulder has gotten a lot more serious about his investigation into the supernatural, such that he's not just like going to be like, well, couldn't the 1920s mythic people have been right about that? He's like, no, the supernatural exists, but it doesn't exist in this respect.
Yeah, it really feels like, in contrast to Mulder and Scully Meet the Were-Person, Monster, it really feels like the natural progression for Mulder in that he gains some, extra insight and is willing to doubt, but is still on board fundamentally with discovering the supernatural.
Yeah.
It feels right in a way that it didn't in the last episode.
And then,
but this guy's like, oh, it's fake? Well, clearly it's not.
Yeah.
Because I put my will into that creation. And,
I put my William, like every other character in this episode. Oh. So then Scully's like, if you created it, it's yours to deal with, and it's as good as you doing it if you didn't, watch out for it. And then she's like, oh, I'm sorry, I was talking about the B-plot. What are we doing here? And
so she does that thing where she has a realization, and so she delivers a line of dialogue that might not be understood as a realization about the B-plot in a weird way, so that you know that she is talking about the B-plot. Whatever, I'm teasing. It's all right.
Yeah. It's done well. It seems appropriate. It's just funny. And then...
Yeah, so they're like, well, says Mulder, if that's really what's happening, then since the homeless aren't going to get taken over to that hospital, things should be fine. There shouldn't be any more murders. But it turns out the injunction from that woman who got murdered was lifted.
Yep.
So they're going to be brought to the hospital that night. And so Ice Cream Man is in danger.
Yeah.
So they run off. The people are being deported as they speak, and Ice Cream Man is being a dick.
Yeah.
He goes through the hospital, and he's just sort of ignoring questions or answering them offhandedly.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. That was my reaction, was that it's not like he's necessarily ignoring them. He acknowledges they're there when he's walking by them, but he's not treating them like people deserving of talking to him.
Yeah. Like, the guy's like, where's my dog? I was told about it. I was like, the dog was taken to the shelter, you can find it.
And he says that as he walks away, not looking at him.
Yeah,
so what's important here is not that he's a bad person, although he is a bad person. Maybe he's an okay person in other ways.
Yeah.
What's important is that he's not
He's a humanly bad person.
Yeah, exactly.
He does not, unlike characters in a lot of other things I've seen, he's not like, how dare you ask me a question? Don't you
trash?
Don't you see how much I'm doing? Like, I don't have time to look for your dog. It's just like, it's at the shelter probably. I don't know. You'll figure it out.
Yeah. He's not respecting them, and that's the actual thing that the episode is about. So he's walking down this hall. People are asking questions, and then suddenly they stop, and everyone closes their doors, and he's in the hallway alone.
And the way it really, that especially works because it doesn't feel unnatural the way they close their doors, such that you can imagine him not being like, where's everyone going? even if he had been paying some attention. Just weirdly, they all went into their room at
the same time, without any of them, as far as we know, saying anything to each other.
Yep.
They just all simultaneously decided it would be a good idea for the doors to be closed.
Yep. So they all go in, and he's overwhelmed by a smell, and portrays it in such a way that I can determine that he is overwhelmed by a smell and not suddenly going to die of coughing blood or something.
So he wanders over to the spooky wing of the hospital.
Yep.
Where I think this scene was a bit long.
Yeah.
A bit drawn out, and there wasn't much to it.
Yeah.
So in contrast to that last great scene, he wanders to the hall, and he sees that there's slimy, wormy footprints, and then he still sees that they're there, and he sees that they're there, and he looks up, and nothing happens, and then the monster is behind him. But not like, it doesn't jump him, it's at the other end of the hall. Yeah. So it's sort of like, it's at least 30 seconds too long, and that's a lot of time in an episode of TV. Yeah.
It feels like it was supposed to be intercut with Scully and Mulder approaching.
Maybe, yeah.
But then they forgot
No one told the editor.
So they just showed it in one thing. And then Scully and Mulder were like, oh, here's where the guy is. We're going to go investigate. Let's go stop. They hear him screaming, and they run and they investigate his screams. And
he screams again just as they pull into this grody bathroom. Yeah. And he is dismembered on the floor. But Scully's like, what? He was just screaming a second ago. So we know that the killer must have been here, but there's no one here, no other way out.
Yep.
How about that?
But Mulder notices another non-existent Band-Aid.
Yep, they're on the ground. And that ends the A-plot.
Yep, and that ends the A-plot, and then...
Oh, there's the one coda.
Oh yeah, there's a coda for both. There's first, I think first was the B-plot coda, where Mulder and Scully are...
No, A-plot coda was first.
A-plot coda comes first, and we see the guy put a plaster smiley face over the thing. And
the artist.
Yeah, we see the artist put a plaster smiley face over the thing, and then we see that he has but then we see him being watched by the Band-Aid man.
So, I mean, the weird part about this is it's not clear 100% that he redid the plaster on the Band-Aid nose man in his studio. Yeah. We just see that it has a weird smile now. So one of two things. A, this indicates that he has overwritten his work in an attempt to destroy it. Yeah. Makes sense. Or B, the work was itself satisfied and therefore had that weird smile. I'd like to discount B because it doesn't seem to have, the new look for it doesn't seem to have anything to do with anything from the episode. Yeah. It feels entirely different, the way that you would make something completely different to overwrite.
Yeah, it felt like he was doing... And the reason this is an issue is because the way that the 1920s people misunderstood that aspect of Tibetan Buddhism is separate from how that aspect of Tibetan Buddhism is misunderstood by people on the internet writing creepypastas. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what type of mythology they're drawing from, basically. So I don't know. If it is the way the 1920s people misunderstood it, what we are seeing was that indeed the thing had either transformed on its own, or he had put the smiley face on as a symbol, but that painting represents the fact that this guy will always be watching over the homeless. Mm-hmm. The modern creepypasta way is that the painting doesn't represent that he will be watching the homeless. The painting is he tried to destroy it by putting a smiley face over, but you can't truly destroy it, and it's watching, and it's probably going to get him. And that also works with the way that a lot of its sequences were shot like slasher movies, because that's a slasher movie ending.
Yes, and it feels like it. So it's not quite clear. Since I didn't know about these creepypastas, I didn't come into it with the foreknowledge, and the fact that I am confused maybe feels a little less important to me. Yeah. More like I'm just, I guess I don't really know what happened. Yeah. Which is sort of all right.
Yeah, it's all right. It's, I think, an issue because it's more of an issue because I don't know if the creators of the episode knew it or not.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard for me to judge if they should have been more clear, because I don't know, like, bringing up tulpas today is a weird thing to do. On the other hand, this show has had 9 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
So they could have been desperately looking for anything.
So the the B plot then is Scully says what she realized when she was talking to the trash man, which is that the reason that her mother's last words were about the fact that she, like them, had a son named Bill, was that she was thinking about their son, which they put up for adoption, Mulder and Scully, and how she, like them, wanted to know how the son that she couldn't see was doing.
Yep.
So she wanted to talk to Charlie, especially because she wasn't sure if he was okay. So once she knew he was okay, she could die.
Yeah, because, who cares about adopted people? She's worried about feeling like she abandons them, and that was a kind of weird thing because, I mean, as somebody who's adopted, I was like, I don't know why you feel like you abandoned them. You did exactly what you needed to do in this case. You got them presumably a good home.
Yeah, I mean, but from their end, they don't have the experience of being adopted. They probably they don't get it.
Yeah,
and their emotions are not less important just because they're not understanding the
No,
situation.
but I wonder if the writer understood the situation.
Mm-hmm.
Because thematically it feels like the writer didn't quite understand the situation.
Interesting. I was sort of reading it as they are just sort of worried for no particular reason, but that's not strange. It's not strange to be worried about things, even if they understood.
No, it's not strange, but the fact that Scully's mother was worried is what was strange. It makes me think
about
that...
Charlie?
No, Scully's mother saying, I have a son named William too, thereby implying she thinks of Charlie and William similarly, where these are very different situations. Scully and Mulder did the appropriate thing to take care of their kid.
Yeah.
Them being worried doesn't feel weird so much as the fact that the episode appears to thematically almost validate their worry is what seems weird.
I'd like to watch it again then.
I'm sure that somewhere in the ether there that will be possible.
So, so Scully's like, yeah, I'm worried that we tossed him out and that he'd feel like we were treating him like garbage. And the reason I do sort of like it is she's like, well, I don't know. I can't ask him.
Yeah. Well, she does say that they did what they had to do.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, it was unclear to me how much the episode understands.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway.
So that's it.
That was the episode.
I talked about most of the stuff I wanted to talk about during our little recap.
I can't think of really anything else I'd want to talk about either. I really want to emphasize how well they used the trash motif. Mm-hmm. Throughout the episode. It really felt important. It felt good.
From the first scene.
From the very first scene on, yeah. It felt good. I feel like the B plot was not bad, but the B plot didn't seem tied in enough.
And like you say, it's a last moment, oh hey, they are totally tied in. But they're little twisted at the very end. The rest of it, they're just flowing free. They're not attached
and
to each other.
They don't move along at the same pace, really.
They're not about each other.
They're not about each other, and they are not similarly paced about each other. So it feels like
it shouldn't be normal for us to be able to summarize the B plot and the A plot respectively in an episode of X-Files.
Yeah,
that's weird.
And the B plot section. Sort of what I'm getting is the B plot moves along at the pace of a Myth Arc episode. Mm-hmm. Whereas the normal one moves along at the pace of a Monster of the Week episode.
And I can tell you which pace I prefer.
Yeah.
It's A.
A plot, not the first thing I mentioned. Yeah. Because I prefer I mostly prefer Monster of the Week episodes, but so that was a sort of issue. If the A plot was moving at the pace of a Myth Arc episode, if this was somehow a Myth Arc episode, it would feel less jarring to me. Mm-hmm. because I did feel jarred. I felt like they could have used a little more time in the A plot to sort of resolve what I'd sort of been left confused about.
I mean, there's the fact that that creature is still out there.
Yeah.
I mean, no matter what interpretation we have for the last scene, it's alive.
Yes, but we don't know whether this specific sequence of events is over.
Yeah. I mean, it could kill again.
Well, it could kill the artist today, is what was implied by that last shot to me, was the artist is about to go home and die.
Maybe.
Well, yes.
Like that's... My other interpretation, the one I had during the episode, is it's just still alive.
Yes, it
will kill other people.
It could be it could be either one of those, and I feel like with a little more time they could have resolved that.
Mm-hmm.
Like they could have even just like shown him in making the mask, what his attitude in making like the mask to put on the face of the thing, whether he is feeling calm and relieved or panicked.
Yes, that would work so well.
Because that would be all I'd really need, like to see him making that, be like, see him putting on, because we don't even see his face after that, so I don't know if him leaving is, okay, I'm going to leave that spooky thing, or okay, my work is done here.
Also, they could have had a shot where
he's a dark wizard,
where he's walking away, and then at some appropriate place in the frame where there's a street, a garbage truck pulls up, and then follows him. Easy.
Yeah.
You don't even need to draw attention to it.
Yeah, the other way around, like, would be, they show him being panicked and hurrying out, and then the garbage truck following him.
Yeah. Then we would know.
Yeah.
It would be weird that Mulder and Scully forgot about the case, because there's really no indication that the issue was definitely over.
No, but it would be unlike Mulder leaving earlier, at least make sense that they thought it was over. Everyone directly harming the homeless. Now the thing is turning on its creator because he was trying to stop it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like they could have gone more definitely one way or the other with that.
For sure.
And I think they would have had, if they'd had more time to it and more focus on it, they would have been able to. So I feel like the B plot, as good as it was, dragged down the A plot.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't dislike the B plot.
So, final thoughts?
It's definitely hard to grade two very good episodes that are just two good half episodes. I'm inclined to give it we're rating out of 10, right?
Yeah, so 1 is the worst possible version of whatever story they were trying to tell. 10 is the best possible version of that story, / better than you thought possible. And 5 is an average telling of a story.
Yeah, so, and that's exactly the problem. It's like, the ideal version of this episode is one story.
Mm-hmm.
At the very least, I'd need to... I would have to grade it in a manner I would find uncomfortably low, if I'm trying to grade it necessarily as that. I almost want to grade the B and the A separately.
Well, I mean, you can improvise an approach to this episode as
so,
it seems appropriate to, for instance, your level of enjoyment. Even
critically
there's something
the
wrong.
A plot is, I'm going to give it a 8 out of 10. It's dragged down by being shortened and having to deal with the B plot, but it's very good, very thematic. It works very well. The B plot, I'm going to give a 6 out of 10. It accomplished what it needed to, but it was both dragged down by the A plot and by its lack of relevance to the A plot, and by not being quite clear what they were trying to say, with her waking up and being like, my son is also named William, and then dying. And it could have shown me more of Scully's feelings, more of her talking with Fox or her brother about about how she feels abandoned, that her mother didn't tell her, and that her mother is asking about Charlie and wondering what this mysterious quarter necklace that she has is.
Oh yeah, I forgot to talk about that.
Because she had a weird necklace, and
probably
Scully's like, I wonder why she has this necklace, but we never find out.
Oh, maybe we'll find out soon.
We might. So Yeah, I give that one a 6 out of 10. I give the main plot an 8 out of 10. I guess I can average them and call it a 7 out of 10.
I don't feel I need to grade them separately, but I think it would be fun.
Yeah.
So I would give the A plot a 9 out of 10 for being exciting, beautiful, having great cinematography that actively works to establish the tone.
It's
and,
really great.
Edited together. Basically, it's sort of very impressive visually.
It's very beautiful.
And
and I know
creepy.
you care more about that than
Yeah.
me, so yeah.
Maybe, I think to a substantial extent. And the B plot, I give an 8 out of 10. Gillian Anderson, I'm having a little trouble here, had put a great performance in. The situation was very straightforward, I suppose, but that's not.
Oh, the situation. That guy from Jersey Shore was in this.
Is that a name?
Yes. It's not like a given name, but yes. And of course remember the B plot also has the advantage of the phrase "You're a dark wizard, Mulder."
Oh yeah, it does. So it's got, it tells a story of someone who's dealing with an impending death, and it's sort of very simple, but it's very convincing, and it draws Mulder and Scully together, and I don't know, it's fine. I can't really bash something that's that well performed and that honest, even if it feels a bit out of place.
Yeah, I mean, it was well performed enough, but I'm willing to bash it for not necessarily bash it. I'm not saying it's terrible.
Yeah,
I did
bash
give it
is such a garbage word. I should
because like that I gave it a positive, better than average still.
No, for sure.
Yeah, it's.
I wasn't saying you were.
Yeah.
As I can't give it less credit than an 8, considering just how honest it felt. Together, however, so my average would be an 8.5, except that I think the fact that they didn't synergize, the two stories didn't feel right together, actually didn't bother me that much. Yeah. So, but I'm still taking off half a point. I'd give this story an 8. And
I think I definitely cared more about the lack of synergy, and I felt both of them suffered from being rushed as a result.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's, I think, why mine got an overall 7. I'm going to, though I will, again, still recommend it. And next episode.
Yeah. Mulder and Scully meet themselves.
Yeah, Mulder and Scully meet a young pair of agents or whatever, one of whom is obsessed with the supernatural.
Has black hair and is a man.
And one of whom is a woman with red hair and who is very skeptical.
Yeah.
There's definitely Mulder and Scully are pretty quickly aware of that. Like, it does have Mulder be like, let me guess, you are obsessed with the supernatural. And so yeah, it's very good, and we see them meeting their younger selves, I guess, and that looks great. One thing I did want to say about...
I don't think literally their younger selves.
No, not literally.
I mean, you never know.
Yeah. One thing I did love about Mulder in this is Mulder feels like an adult, which is very important in this revival, because Mulder never felt like an adult in the run of the series. Whenever we saw him not investigating a crime, we saw that his life is that he goes home and watches porn and falls asleep in his chair.
Mm-hmm.
We discovered in one episode he doesn't even have a bedroom.
Oh yeah.
His bedroom is just stocked with X-Files. Somebody walks into the bedroom and these files come out. So that was a good one.
There is one thing I forgot to mention.
Oh?
The scene where they meet Trash Man,
yeah.
Where he gives his spiel about what he's trying to do and how he's mad about the homeless. That is too long, and he spells out too much. It's almost like, oh, you didn't understand my phrasing of the idea. Let me state it again. It goes on for a while, and it just kind of bugs me because it doesn't do anything to make me care more about this monster.
It didn't bug me that much,
mm-hmm.
Because it didn't do much to make me care about the monster, but it made me see the character better.
Mm-hmm.
The character of the crazy artist.
it's just like I know that maybe he would ramble as a character, but since it's a TV episode, his dialogue needs to be tighter.
I don't feel like he said there was anything that was repetitive there.
All right, we'll see when we watch the episode again.
Yeah.
Awesome. I was very pleased.
Yep, good episode, and we're hoping another good one next week. Bye.
Bye-bye.